plays the piano, we found out. She is a Telly Award-winning singer and a 5-time top 40 Billboard artist.
Wow.
She's been featured on the Aspire Women's Conferences and has been on the stage with very famous other singers, but we don't need to talk about them because we're talking about you. And she's now got this, she's got this book, Dumplings Mean Family. Everybody remembers this book it was on Prayer on Purpose, I think. And we'll talk about that, but that's actually not even all of that, and that's not even what she's here to talk about.
Wow.
So we should talk, just for a minute, let's talk about the book.
Okay.
Okay.
You gotta tell me
Dumplings Mean Family.
Yeah, so this was my little COVID project that came out. COVID is, obviously you can imagine I'm a speaker and a musician. And so COVID was devastating in terms of just like I lost, I think, 54 events in 3 days at the beginning of COVID.
Oh, no.
And so you're sort of sitting in your house all of a sudden, and all my kids are schooling from home, and I don't, as far as I know, I'm unemployed instantly. And you're just thinking, well, okay, Lord, what are you doing? And what will come out of this? And I think it was so fun to see something that book was totally unexpected. So I had been praying a long time about how to share. Our family has 6 children. We have 3 biological kids and 3 who were adopted from China. And I've written other books. And so people kept asking, when are you writing your adoption book? And I kept thinking, I can never write that book because my kids were adopted as elementary school kids, and I need them to feel safe in my house. And, my story is, so I can't tell it without telling their story, which is theirs, and they get to decide if they want that out in the world. But it was frustrating because I wanted to talk about, I tell people when you go and you adopt, you leave the other kids there. And it's the most devastating thing. And so we wanted just people to be talking about how special these, like the adoption process and everything. And so I just had this idea all of a sudden for a kid's book. I was like, wait, we could do a children's book, and it would be a book families could read with families, and it would just allude to that. But the book is more about the integration of our family and how we learn to love people who aren't exactly like we are. And the main idea is that the kids missed their food from China, and so we learned to make Chinese food together. And this is us learning to make dumplings together so that they would realize they're in our family. And but just all those things we can touch on and not have to out a lot of personal details.
Why
and
dumplings, though?
Oh, because that was what they wanted so badly, was dumplings. Really? And they thought, my kids also had a picture in their head of what a mother would be and what a father would be. And when they got one, and I remember they're in my kitchen and asked me to make dumplings, and I said so offhandedly, oh, I don't know how to make a dumpling. And they looked like they might die. They were like, that's like, it would be like your mother saying, oh, grilled cheese, what's that? Or pizza, you'll never have pizza again, kind of a thing. And they were like, oh my, like we thought any parent would know how to do that. And I thought, you know what, I can. And fortunately, I have a lot of Chinese friends, so I started calling my friends and I was asking them for recipes, and one of my best friends is Chinese, and so she had us over and we had a dumpling party and she showed me how to do it. And
did you take the kids with you?
Yes, and it's in the book. Mrs. Chung, if you read the book, is a real person. So it's just like, it was a story, I think, of just, I feel like the whole process has been a story of redemption. The way the Lord has been working not only in my kids' lives, but in our lives. And so anyway, all of that came out, and then my oldest daughter just finished her degree in illustration. So she did all the pictures. So we got to work on this together during COVID when we're all locked down, and it was just, that part was a joy.
Your oldest biological daughter or your oldest adopted daughter?
My oldest biological. Okay. So she just finished college, and she has, her degree is in illustration. And so she just knocked it out of the park with the book. And,
she did.
And then this whole last year, I've been going to schools, a place I I mean, I usually speak for mostly women's events, but conferences and retreats and things all over the country. And in this case, I've been in public schools, which who thought I would go in public schools? And we're talking about, you know, just culture and culture shock and loving people. Like, one of the things I always tell kids, hey, if a kid moves to your school and they don't speak English, who cares? You can still play with them. Like, I couldn't talk to my kids for a while and we just played with them. You know, you can be friends with someone who's not just like you.
Well, you have to tell us their reaction when they got your first batch of dumplings.
Oh, well, our first batch, we really did make with Mrs. Chung, and they were the best dumplings I've ever had in my whole life. But then, you know, they actually love them. But I tell kids, the son, Noah, was the one who really, really wanted dumplings. He's the one in the blue shirt. And he had a very specific memory of the taste that he was missing. But he was 9 when I adopted him. It's not like he came with recipes. Right? So I was asking my friends, and they're like, well, what city is he from? And we're kind of detectives, you know? And so we're like, well, he remembered they were pork and cabbage, but that's all. So I probably made dumplings 30 times. We kept adjusting it until finally one day he was like, that's it. That's what I remember. And so the recipe's actually in the book. So you can make your own if you want.
Wow.
If you want Noah's dumpling recipe.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we put videos up. There's a website just for the book. My website's jennifershaw.com, but that's dumplingsmeanfamily.com, and we put up cooking videos. So if you want to see how to do it, because people get intimidated.
What were the spices that you used?
It's like rice vinegar, rice wine, ginger, white pepper powder, soy sauce, obviously, that's usually in there, sesame oil. Those are
I'm
the
just
main
wondering
ones.
what the taste actually was that he was missing.
Well, it's more the ratios. Most dumpling recipes, I would say Northern Chinese, where he's from, there's like 12 ingredients that there's some arrangement of those you're going to use, and it was just the proportions. So we kept, like, we had garlic in it, and he's like, that's wrong, no garlic in ours. So we have ginger in it, and he just had different things more sesame oil, more white pepper powder, that kind of a thing.
Goodness. How old is he now?
He's 15.
Oh, wow.
And he's taller than me, and he's really excited about it. It's not very hard to be taller than me, but he points it out every day.
Do they cook with you now?
Yeah, they do. And the other day we were making a noodly thing the other day because they all like to cook. So
That's wonderful. Okay, were all of them, how old were your biological kids, and how old were your adopted kids when
they were adopted?
Uh-huh.
Let's see, let me think about that. So Noah came home first, and he was 9.5 when we adopted him, but he was very ill. So we were going to see what his medical situation was going to be, and that's sort of a miraculous story. And then about 15 months later, Ethan and Anna came home on the same trip. They had never met, but they were 8.5 and 6.5 when they came home. And then
These are not siblings.
Not biologically.
Okay.
They are now.
Oh, no, right.
And then our older kids were, so when Noah came home, Toby was 11, and Rachel was 14, and Rena was 17. So
Okay.
it was a little like starting, reboot,
Yeah.
new family, like younger family. But it was, and I have to say, I was so proud of my children because, they were the ones who just leapt in. They're like, this is the new us, and we're gonna make, they never. A lot of people are like, were they resentful? Did they have? And really, they were rock stars. They were amazing. They just wanted to embrace them and bring them in. And that first year home was really hard, and then it got better. And now we're celebrating 5 years this summer with Ethan and Anna, actually next week. And so we do a big family day.
So you went over there and met them and chose them and?
No, well, you're matched well before. You're not allowed to meet them or talk to them until you're adopting them, basically. So
Okay.
you get a really helpful 2 pieces of paper. That's like,
Wow.
do you say yes or no? And
So did you not know that Noah was ill?
I did know that.
You did know
and
that.
that was a big deal because we knew he was sick. We didn't know how sick he was. And then I didn't understand his condition. And so we had sent what little we had down to our children's hospital. And about maybe a month before we left for China, they called and said, we don't think you understand. Like, you're bringing him home for hospice. This isn't good. Oh. And I was really just, I don't even know how to explain those feelings because I've never met him, but I already loved him. And I remember having just sort of immediate panic. That human reaction is, that's too hard for me. I don't want to do that. We've actually had a lot of experience with special needs, and it's hard to sign up for that again. And especially at that level where you're like, there's so many variables already. And my husband, just praise God for my husband. His immediate response was, how could we live with ourselves if we left him there now? And he's right. And so we brought him home. But it was because he'd been left so long. He was 9.5. And so no one thought he would still be operable. But when they got him home, he was. And so they can't fix it, but they made it a whole lot better. And so he is now at 15, having a very normal, when we met him in China, he couldn't walk up 3 stairs. He was blue. My husband literally carried him through China. And now he can run a mile and he can swim and he can do all kinds of stuff. So and he's brilliant and hilarious and such a fun, he's the nicest kid. He's just been let me tell you a quick story about Noah because it was very sweet. Okay. So he was in the hospital a long time. He had open heart surgery. And then he had complications because he was older. And so we were in the hospital about a month, and we'd only known him. At that point, he'd been with us about 5 months, and he's brilliant. I mean, he had English, functional English, so quickly. And we were sitting in the hospital doing puzzles. And he looked at me, and he said, still, trying to find all his words. And he says, Mama. And I said, yeah. And he goes, there are, and he counts in his head in English, he's like, 6. There are 6 people in our family. And I said, yeah, that's true. And he goes, Mama, there are 8 seats in our van. Oh. And I said, well, that's true. Oh. And then he said, so many kids need families. Oh, my And here gosh. I'm like, here's a kid for 9.5 years. He's wanted a family. He has one for 4 or 5 months, and he's ready to share, because that was his reality. That's how he grew up. And I just, his heart is so sweet. And so I say to people, sometimes when I'm talking about, when the Lord calls you to something that seems overwhelming, because that did seem too hard for me, just overwhelming. And I said I had so much fear, but God tells us not to fear that he's with. He says that over and over and over, do not fear. And now I say my fears are different now. I think, I could have missed him. If I had let my fear get in the way of what God called me to, I would have missed Noah.
Yeah, and your husband too. How does that feel with having a husband tell you, honey, we can do this or we can make it? How did that make you feel? Was it like a turnaround?
Yeah, and yes, it was a very pivotal moment. I remember it so vividly. And I will say, having been both a special needs mom and a medical special needs, we've done a lot of things together. And you definitely see a lot of marriages end, and the stats aren't great when you have that in your house. But if they don't end, what you find out is that I have an incredible partner. People say to me all the time, how do you do all these things? And it just makes me laugh. I'm like, well, Nathan, that's how. What would we're a team, and when you make it through things like that, you realize, and I love, he's everything I'm not and vice versa. It's hilarious. I don't even know why we're friends, but I do love that man. We don't have anything in common, but he has all the skills I'm bad at and vice versa, and so I really see how the Lord put us together, and I like him a lot.
So what was the first day coming home? What was that like for your family as a whole?
Well, you're 12 hours time change, so it's literally it's like the most jet lagged you can possibly be. So you're kind of hallucinating a little bit, but also it's just I remember we got to the house and it was like midnight. And this is with Noah, and the other kids did it too when they came home, but I had sent pictures. They told us the kids worry. So I had sent pictures. Hey, here's your bed. You have a place to sleep. Here's where your things will go. You have drawers here. Here's the kitchen. We will feed you. These are the things the kids are worried about. And he got to our house, and he told us later he was so mad. He ran through the whole house because he was like, I thought my bed was in the kitchen. All I knew is there's a bed in the kitchen. He goes, now I know. Like, he said, you got to tell the other kids there's a family room. There's other things.
How was he able to communicate that with you?
That was later. But at the
okay.
beginning, we used a lot of Google Translate. And Mrs. Chung is my neighbor, and she was on speed dial because she is... Like Anna, we found out 6 days before we brought Anna home that she spoke Cantonese. The boys speak Mandarin. No one told us. And so we were like, oh, so you really can't talk to anyone. So Mrs. Chung, Fanny, she can speak. She's fluent in all three. So she was, what a God gift and a friend.
Yes.
And I've known her so much longer than I ever thought I'd be adopting, And so I was like, well, the Lord put you in my life for more than one
amazing
purpose.
how-
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
God knew.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed the video. To see more like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button below and get all the latest content from TCT Ministries. We'd love to pray alongside you for God's blessings in your life, so you can email your prayer requests to prayer@tct.tv or click the link below and submit your request at tct.tv. God bless you and thank you for watching.